Hey, what's up, everybody? This is John Ricard, and we are doing Camera Work Podcast number 34. And our co-host, Ray, is finally back because he hasn't been on like the last 2 episodes. What's up, Ray?
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Ray Tamara. I'm back. I was on the road for a second, and I'm glad to be here. So hopefully, thanks for listening. And we have a special guest today, a very talented photographer. His name is Mr. Better, Brian Better. It's like a secret agent photographer.
Right. And it's really cool to have Brian come walking in. And we're going to talk about why that's cool that he came walking in a minute. But what's up, Brian?
Hey, how are you?
Good. How you feeling? You feeling good in the cold or whatever?
Yeah, I am.
Give the listeners a little bit of history on what you do, who you shoot for, and what you enjoy shooting. You shoot for an agency.
Yeah, I shoot for Getty Images mostly these
days.
Are
you staff
for Getty?
For
hire.
Yeah, I was staff for Getty. I started with Getty back in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Went staff in 2006, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
I was staff for 4 or 5 years, and then went to a newspaper for a while, a digital newspaper called the Daily.
Mm-hmm.
And then they shut their doors, and then now I've been freelance, and Getty's been took me back with open arms, and they've been treating me really well.
Right, but did you like being staff for Getty? How was it different being staff for Getty versus being like freelance for Getty? What's the main differences?
I mean, it changed over the years. I think, when I first started, it was a very small group of people.
Mm-hmm.
And then, they acquired MediaVast, and
other
the staff grew, staff photographers anyway, in our entertainment division grew to like 10 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was fine, but it's you're one of 10, so it was kind of hard to stand out in that.
Right. But that's kind of what photography is now anyway, in a way, because anywhere you go, there's like 30 guys.
Right.
And, when I shot BET for like 3 years, I did House at 106 in Park, shooting it, and it was so cool to me to be shooting entertainment and be the only photographer there, because that's so rare now. Even if it's like B-level artists, it's still kind of cool that there's no other photographer there, because that's so rare now. There's so many people shooting.
Yeah, and not that was a problem that I had, but I had an opportunity to kind of branch out and shoot everything, which now, I enjoy shooting everything.
Right. Mm-hmm. Now, before we get to you too much, I want to pop over to Ray for a second, because Ray just came back from LA, and I'm looking at Ray's Instagram, which is funny in itself, because there was a long time that Ray was not really into Instagram, and he's liking it now, but you seem to have done really well on the personal work in LA, right? Because you did a whole bunch of yoga pictures out there. How did that go for you? How did you set that all up?
I connected with people on Instagram and through email, through the internet, yoga practitioners, and I just wanted to take photos of them, continuing the stuff that I was doing in New York, which is taking photos of yoga postures on public transit, like subways and trains, etc. And that was cool. It wasn't complicated. I hooked up with one person, hooked up with another person, got some good images, and I'm back and I'm continuing the work. So not
which
super
is funny
complicated.
because you're shooting today, like you just finished her name was Talia Sutra on Instagram, and she literally just walked out of here 30 seconds ago, and then we're like, okay, let's try to get the podcast done, and you're like, somebody's coming in 15 minutes for more yoga shots.
That community seems to be huge.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, and I like it. I certainly am more passionate about creating these pictures than the pictures that make me money, which is I think a lot of people share that same thing. But I'm grateful for my PAP work, and I just enjoy this, and hopefully there's money at the end of the road, and if not, I'll just continue doing it, because it just stokes my creative fire. Right.
You made me, not you didn't make me, but you inspired me to start doing. Now I do a model shoot every week. I call it Model Test Monday, and it's usually on a Monday. Sometimes it's not, but every week I do a model shoot, and I really got the idea from Ray. I decided to focus my Instagram better, so it wouldn't be like jiu-jitsu pictures and concerts and guys and fashion and girl. Now it's it's like 90% models and maybe 10% family.
On your Instagram feed?
On my Instagram, right. I focused it. Like if you were to scroll my Instagram back, say till from before September of 2014, you'll see a very wide variety of content. But when I saw Ray's thing, what I thought was interesting was he was only shooting yoga and was
Right.
able to build a following much faster.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Ray is creating interesting content outside of yoga. He might have caught like Kim Kardashian
Yeah.
walking into Letterman, but he's realizing if I don't put that on my Instagram, it's going to do me more good.
Right.
Whereas my Instagram would be like jujitsu pictures and a whole bunch of jujitsu guys follow
Right.
me, and then for the next month it's like celebrities and they don't
Well,
care.
you have to create a channel that's branded a certain way.
Right.
Even though being photographers
Right.
these days, I think you have to be a jack of all trades. But
Yeah.
the
Right.
way you market yourself, you
Yeah.
kind of have to be
Yeah.
these individual.
Right,
Not
the
that I
people
can
who
do
are-
it very well.
No, but the people who are following you, like you're saying, if they want to see, if they followed you because you put up some hot, half naked women,
Right.
they don't care when you put up the jujitsu pictures.
Right,
And
exactly.
if guys are following you because they like your jujitsu pictures, they don't.
Right.
They might want to see the girls, but they don't care when you start doing like hip hop music artists.
Right,
so
right.
I focused it now, and it's really just models. But I really got that from Ray because
Yeah.
his was so focused.
But it's not like I invented something. It's just like how your focus was on the public displays of affection on the subways, or just like Mr. Better here has got a great personal project. It's called the Visitors.
Visitor portraits, yeah.
Visitor portraits, and it's just whatever floats your boat creatively, you go with that until something else
Right.
comes. So
No.
if you can just tell people about that and just a little bit
yeah,
about
what is this visitor? I haven't seen that.
I guess I have to explain the whole story, right?
Mhm.
So I was in Miami working for Getty doing Miami Art Basel.
Yeah.
Had an accident, broke my neck, was paralyzed, recovered at an insane rate.
How long were you
We're-
paralyzed for?
I was fully paralyzed for a week.
Mm-hmm.
Like no leg movement, I can move my arms but not my hands or anything.
And what's going through your mind during that week?
I don't know, it's tough to say. I think things were happening so fast that it was either accept the condition that I'm in and live with it, or focus all of my energy on trying to move my body,
Right.
which
do
was
you-
probably that, and
Is there a point during that week where you cry, where you're sad and you cry, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I was surrounded by my family, my wife, so, having, those special people around me was it was so much support, and then I got so much other support from outside that I don't know, I didn't focus on that. I there were times, obviously, there were, I would wake up and be, you wake up and you forget, and I'd be like, oh, let me grab that, and be like, oh,
Right,
I
you
can't. I can move my arm, but I can't open my hand.
Yeah, but they always say that people, however you were before, you won the lottery, or before you had a traumatic accident,
Right.
you kind of stay that person. Meaning, if you were this miserable person,
Right.
and then you win the lottery, you stay miserable.
Right.
And if you were basically a happy person, and this terrible thing happens, you end up paralyzed for life, you essentially stay sort of that same happy person, despite what has happened to you. Did you feel that way, that you were still going to be you if the paralysis did not?
Yeah, I mean,
Change?
And everything happened so quick. I kind of, in the first few days, I was like, all right, well, if I'm in this condition for the rest of my life, I'm just gonna figure out how to shoot photos again, and I'm gonna figure out how to go in the ocean and surf,
Yeah, that's the thing that's, I don't know if I guess the word is ironic. It's you Google Brian Better, and then there's a picture of him on a skateboard 5 feet in the air. It's
From Brian Atch's,
right.
Yeah.
He shot a whole bunch of photographer, New York City,
Yeah,
kind of well-known.
what was that, the photographer
photographers.
project? Yeah.
Right, but it's just kind of funny, and you're like, well, this is the guy who ends up apparently injured and not
Right.
able to do that again. It was kind of fucked up, but the recovery seems to be going well because you walked in the door of the studio today, man. That was so cool.
Yeah, I'm so lucky. I guess, I don't know much about, I'm learning, but I guess this doesn't happen. People that get this type of injury, they don't recover, so I mean, talk about winning the lottery. I fucking won the lottery 1,000 times, you know?
Yeah.
Every day I wake up, I win the lottery. And with the people that do recover, you know, tend to be athletic. So that's, you know,
that's good to
one,
know.
you know, I've heard of, you know, a handful of people like recovering to maybe not 100%, but you know, up there, and they were athletes beforehand.
Right.
So that's a big, you know, not that I was really that athletic, but I surfed a lot.
Right.
You know, I didn't consider myself quote unquote athletic, but I surfed a lot, and that was, you know, I think that saved my life on many levels.
Though. It's good for, you know, you to be one of those people making that recovery. It really is. Like, you're one of those people who, if I'm shooting an event and I see you, I'm glad. Just like Michael Lakasanov. If I see him, I'm glad. Soul Brother. You know, and then there's other guys I'm just like, yeah, whatever. But you're one of those guys I'm glad when I see you.
So besides that, then you tell us about the Visitors project, because that was came out of this recovery, this rehab.
Yeah. It came kind of later on the. I mean, I'm only 2 months in. This happened December 4th. Where are we? February 6th, 7th.
Yeah.
I, you know, obviously, like, I couldn't really shoot much. I tried early on, but it was so hard.
You're on a Nikon. Which one?
When I was in Florida, I had my Fuji X100. I mean, I had my Nikons with me, but I couldn't even lift them at all. You know.
Right. No, I meant, what was your normal camera? Was what though?
Nikon D4, D3Ss.
Right.
Those are
and
heavy.
yeah, I mean, I was able to pick up my X100, but you know, it was so hard for me to like press, like hold it steady and press the shutter button. And then, you know, this all happened in Miami, and I was there for 2 weeks, and then I was in a rehab here in New York, and probably a week in, or maybe 2 weeks in, I you know, kind of got the idea that, you know, I was starting to move my hands a little bit more. And it wasn't easy, but I was able to take pictures. That's when I got
which camera?
With the X100.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was taking little pictures here and there, and then, you know, one day my best friend was there, and I just took a shot of him. You know, not even posed or anything, but you know, he's an artist and big inspiration in my life. And he was always one of those people that would like stay busy, you know, like, you know, not necessarily for this situation, but in general. And, you know, I like at that moment I was like, you know, I gotta stay busy, you know, like, and I took that photo and I posted it. And
I didn't see this. This was where, like, on your Instagram or something like that?
Yeah, it was one of the first photos. It doesn't even look like a portrait necessarily. It's kind of a candid moment that has like, you know, he was like backlit by a window. And then from there, I was like, you know, I got to do something. I should take pictures of, and I'm lucky that all my friends are photographers. They tend to be, you know, whether they like posing, they understand it. Where I can say, oh, there's some nice light. Can you stand there for 1 second? And you know, it worked out that way.
Cool. Yeah,
and there's some beautiful stuff. Like I was telling them, there is this one shot that I look at all the time, and I was like, how can I recreate that? The shades are drawn, so you see lines of light across the visitor's torso, face, and it's just beautiful. And it's a backlit shot too. So I mean, I think that there's a window, and then I think there's light coming in. So there's two light sources, and it's very, very cool.
Yeah,
and it's funny because you know, I spoke to you earlier about this. I did a fundraiser for you because I pictured you wanting to shoot. That's just my vision of you was that you would be someone who would want to shoot no matter what. So it occurred to me that, like, if you were paralyzed for life, which God, thank God, like
Right.
you fucking walked in the door today. But if you were, how could you do it? And I
Right.
thought of Google Glass.
Right.
So I did this fundraiser.
Oh, man.
And I really got to thank the students from the Marcelo Garcia
Yeah, me
Jiu-Jitsu
too.
Academy.
If they're listening, thank you guys.
Hopefully they are, but they were really the primary source of funds.
Right.
And what I did was I said, I'll do a portrait of you in a gi. You know, in your
Wow.
gi, like a
Yeah.
formal portrait, the kind that usually only like the world champions have, a really
Right, of
formal
course.
portrait lit. And then you just make any donation you can, whatever.
Right.
I'm not even looking at the donations,
Right.
just it could be cash or it could be to this GoFundMe. And we managed to raise a full $1,500 to get Google Glass, which lets you take a picture by blinking your
God.
eyes. So
Right.
this is it right here. Look, it doesn't even say anything, but that's it right there. And we
And
get to
that's
give
glass.
that to
Oh
you.
my gosh.
And I mean,
This is amazing.
yeah, there you go. And I had a chance to play with one of those a few months ago, man. It looks like
Yeah.
a lot of fun, like just to be able to blink your eye and shoot.
Right.
And I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you can, do something
thank
with
you
it.
so
man.
much.
So
Yeah, I'm gonna figure out how to use it, but I was thinking about it. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet.
Right.
But if anything, I'm thinking of this incident happening to me. Like, I really
Right.
want to give back to like the especially being so lucky. Like,
right.
whatever I can do to give back to the
Right.
community of
I mean,
spinal cord injuries. This is my idea with this was
Right.
maybe I can help somebody be creative, be
Right.
or make their life somehow
Yeah.
easier.
Imagine if you were to give that to someone else who's paralyzed, or do some kind of project where like you teach people about composition and things
Right.
like that, and
Yeah,
give them an
that's what
opportunity
I
to
was
shoot.
thinking something like that.
We'll get some models. You bring them here. We'll get some
Right.
models. Forget about it. We'll make people's day. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But one other thing I think is interesting about your story in particular is that, like, with me, like, I'm fortunate that I have health insurance through my wife
Right.
because we're married and she works for the Board of Ed. So things like dental and basic health care is covered for me.
Right.
But like gear insurance, I don't have it. And I
Right.
know that's insane because it's probably like $1,000 a year. But, I've got like 2 Leicas, 100 Nikons,
Right,
all this
yeah.
stuff. None of it's insured. But I thought it was interesting
And
that...
the studio is in downtown.
Here we go, right? It's easy to find by
We're in Brooklyn.
address,
It's in
though.
Brooklyn.
But the thing that I thought was interesting was that when your incident happened, and there was like this GoFundMe page raising some money for you, and your wife had a statement that said something along the lines of like, hey, does anyone know how I go about collecting whatever benefits
Right.
you might have had? And it just kills me because it's like we're all walking around and like none of us knows anything about like
Yeah.
what health coverage do we have, how do we access
Yeah,
it,
that-
what should we have.
My
It's
wife
unbelievable.
should be here for this. I mean,
Right.
she's
Yeah.
She's amazing.
Did you know what health coverage you had before you had an incident where you needed it?
No, I mean, I I knew the name. I don't even know
Right.
my number.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
how often that I
Isn't that
use
unbelievable that we're all walking around like that?
Right.
Like I'm the same way. It's unbelievable.
And we have the Affordable Care Insurance, which I found out that it's actually pretty good these days. Like insurance is that they are all starting to become very similar in what they cover.
Right.
And my wife thought we were gonna be like high and dry,
Right.
but she did a lot of digging and talked to a lot of people, and it turned out that the coverage was actually pretty good
That's good. Was it like a Getty coverage or just something that you guys had separately? You're saying that was something you guys had.
No, this is just the regular Affordable Care,
That's like the Obama
Obamacare,
thing?
yeah.
Wow, that's good. So that actually came through because we don't get political, but I like Obama.
Yeah.
That's the end of politics on the podcast. But that actually helped, you're saying?
Yeah.
But that's if you have it.
Of course. You
This is
have it,
Times
and that's
Square.
if you can actually afford it, because
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
not quote unquote affordable. I mean, I guess
Okay.
it depends. It's once you get it, it's so hard getting it and understanding it. That's probably the big problem with the Affordable
Right.
Care Act.
Right.
And then God forbid something happens, like figuring out where you're covered and where you're not.
Yeah.
Like,
but that's the
everybody's
thing that's so
confused by
crazy.
that part of it.
Right. That's the thing that I think is so crazy, and it's all of us. Like I said,
Right.
you're no different. My wife would have been saying the same thing. What am I supposed to do now?
Right.
It's amazing. Like, it's crazy.
For me, I haven't. There was a time when I didn't have insurance, and then I started making money through photography. And what I realized is that anything can happen, and when it does, when it can be a catastrophic accident, then you can be wiped out.
Right.
So I got insurance, but unfortunately, and I've had insurance for the past like 7 years, but unfortunately there was a glitch, so I don't have insurance now, and I have to jump through hoops to get it again.
Yeah.
But it's important simply because you just don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day, and so if you can afford it,
Right.
Yeah,
that's
but a
the
lot of
big
times
part.
we say we can't afford it, and we're paying $100 a month on cable.
Right.
Yeah.
So what can we afford or not afford?
Yeah.
Like, again, I don't have gear insurance. I just bought this video stabilizer for $700, and I bought a camera to use on the video stabilizer for $200. So that's virtually $1,000. I could probably get gear insurance for $1,000 a year.
For the year.
Yeah.
But it's just I don't know, man. It's messed up.
I think we have apartment insurance, and it covers gear. Obviously, that would be different.
Yeah, I think
in a
I've
studio.
heard that doesn't cover pro though. A lot of times, like they'll cover
Right.
like your mom's kind of camera, but
Right.
not 2D4s kind of thing.
I'll have to ask my wife. That's
Yeah,
one
they
of
always
my-
say you need a separate rider for like the
Yeah,
professional gear
Right.
like that.
That insurance is probably like anywhere from $900 to like $1,200, and it includes your gear, and it usually includes a liability, so that when you're
Right.
starting to be a vendor, then and you have to enter in these, like if you're a wedding photographer and you're going into these hotels,
Right.
they require you
you
to
have
have like $2 million
Right.
liability, and those
Right.
policies are usually like $1,200 for
Right.
the year,
Right.
and that's an all-encompassing policy that covers your equipment and liability. So if someone gets hurt while you're doing the job,
Right. Yeah.
and that'll cover you from someone like
Right.
coming after you.
Yeah,
Right.
I've heard some stories.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember it right now, but
Yeah, we've been fortunate though in the studio, with no incidents
Yeah.
of that nature, But on a slightly different note, when I was looking at your site one time, you had done some Hurricane, not Katrina, what was the New York one?
Sandy.
Right, and I thought the shots were really good, and it's the kind of thing I look at and I go like, damn, like, how come I never do that? I never
Right.
go out. Like Sandy comes on and I just watch it on TV and
Right.
laugh at the weathermen getting blown away in the water. But when you shot something like that, did that come through like a Getty assignment, or did you just kind of go off on your
no,
own and
at
shoot it, or what?
that time I was staff at the newspaper, so
Right.
That was a sign.
yeah, I just went out and shot. They didn't necessarily. We weren't heavy on the local news, and I don't think they knew how big it was going to be.
Right.
So they didn't necessarily because they were a national newspaper, even though it was on the
Right.
iPad.
This was the Daily thing.
The
It's called
Daily,
the
yeah.
Daily.
It
I
was-
remember when they came out, they were like kind of looking for photographers. I remember
Yeah.
that.
I was one of 2 staffers, but we weren't really big on like the local hard news stuff, which I always enjoyed shooting. That's where I started, was in the newspaper, but soon after I started shooting professionally, I started shooting for Getty, and they just kept me busy, and that kind of
Right.
news to like celebrity kind of the news kind of went away.
Yeah.
But I got a chance to go to the newspaper, so I was shooting everything, and then the hurricane happened, and I just went out. It was tough. I think I mistimed a lot of the stuff that happened during. I mean, it's
What do you mean, like showed up after the fact or something?
kind of. I mean, it was such a massive event that the story
Yeah.
went on for days and days.
Right.
But I had a wife and young daughter at home.
Right.
That I had to make sure I went home to check in with them.
Right. Where do you live? Which borough?
Brooklyn.
You're in Brooklyn, that's where I am.
Williamsburg. And during the hurricane, the first night of it, I went out, because I only gave myself, a couple hours at a time, and then would go back and check in,
Right.
make sure they were all right. I think we didn't lose electricity I think we were one of the only areas that like really didn't get hit all that hard, except for we had no trains for like a month or something. We were like the last ones to get the train. But I kind of missed, when the high tide came in. I went down to Dumbo early. Right. And do you remember when those guys someone got the shot of the
carousel?
The carousel.
Yeah,
with
yeah. And as far as I know, it was someone named Anna Dorfman who is
that's an
art
amazing
director.
Photo. Yeah.
It was incredible. Yeah. And everybody thought it was a fake photo.
I mean, they had the vantage though. We were down wading through the water and we kind of missed that, and then. There was a couple other things here and there that I wish I timed a little better.
Don't you? We always feel that.
That's
way.
Always how it is.
And the thing too is, I think what happens is we are comparing ourselves as an individual to the collective group of photographers. Right. So you're looking at what 30 photographers produced, and one of the 30 beat you. But if you looked at your take versus one of their individual takes, they might not have beat you.
Right.
That's always one of those tricky things. You always feel like you're not getting the shot.
And I also had no pressure. The newspaper wasn't necessarily requiring me to be out there those few days.
But I admire when people get out and do it, because as I said, a lot of times I'll kind of after the fact I'll look at it and I go, man, I should have shot that, and then I just don't.
As a
I don't know.
As a historical
Yeah, I think sometimes I feel like, well, what am I going to add? It's being covered, and there's 200 people shooting it, but that's definitely not the correct attitude. But on one other topic, I can see Ray's getting antsy because he's expecting someone to come through the door any minute now for another yoga session. But gear-wise for a minute, so you're using a Fuji X-T1 now, I guess primarily because it's a lot lighter.
Yeah.
Right, do you anticipate going back to the Nikon, or are you liking the Fuji enough that you're going like, wow, this could be my permanent camera? What are the differences for you between those two?
No, I mean, obviously, like, the Nikon has a lot of advantages, but as soon as I can be working with the Nikon, I will be, just because that's, for the assignments that I get from Getty, I have to be, it has to be the fastest, the flash has to be,
of course,
the set of lenses,
Yeah, it's got to just be perfect. It has to work. But I find when I'm recommending cameras to people, I'm constantly saying to people, unless you're like a Getty wire image guy, you really don't need to be on Nikon or Canon. You can get by easily on a Fuji A7 or the Sony A7 or one of the Fujis.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing portraiture work where you can say to someone, okay, hold on, move your shoulder, squint your eyes, whatever, you really don't need the benefits of what you're getting from a DSLR anymore, because like you're saying, that X-T1 is so good and the A7s are so good.
As far as quality, this thing is pretty damn good.
Right.
And I have, what is this, 35-1.4?
Yeah, I think
which winds up being a 50-1.4.
Oh, I thought that was the 35. I thought that was their 35.
It's a 35, but it's a crop sensor, so it winds up being a 50. And I had nothing against Nikon, but I really think that this beats the Nikon 1.4.
Right. Well, I know
50-1.4.
Like I've got the old 85-1.4 and the old 50-1.4, and neither one focuses properly on my D3. I have to do 100 shots to guarantee 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So I'm sure this focuses way more accurately because it's a more modern system than say what I'm using at least. So
yeah, I mean every once in a while it'll, because it's it focuses off the sensor. Right. It'll miss, but it's pretty damn good for the size and weight. And that's right now, my injury, I've recovered pretty fast, but my arms and hands are pretty, weak. Right. And, I don't have 100%, range of motion yet. Right. So, using this camera has been, getting me back. Otherwise, cool. I do have the X100, but it's a fixed 35. Mm-hmm. That's a great street camera. Right. I love that's my walk around the streets of New York camera.
Right. But I've always felt that it's good to have more than one camera. And I know, with Ray does his real work on the D4, and then he does the personal work, the yoga, on the D4. But it always seems to me that having a separate tool, My hardcore work is done on my Nikon, but
Right.
everything else is done on my Leicas. And
Yeah.
really, at this point, it's like 80% of my stuff is being done on the Leicas, and I love those cameras. And I like the difference because when I pick up the Nikon, it's just so easy now compared to what I'm used to when I'm using the Leica. That
Right.
It, I don't know, it just puts me in a different frame of mind for the personal work and the professional work, and I really like that.
Yeah.
You know, and
That's-
you might find you're going to keep that XT1.
That's kind of how I've, you know, this XT1 I'm definitely going to keep, and I feel like it's a great camera to shoot portraits with, especially these, you know, more intimate,
right.
you know, where especially when I'm, you know, the series that I'm doing, like, you know, my friends and family are like in my home, you know, and we're more hanging out. It's not like they've come to like sit for a portrait session.
Right.
You know, they've come to visit me, and you know, I'll be like, oh, like, can you sit over here for a second? And and it's a much more intimate,
Right,
you know,
you're not
way.
blasting 11 frames a second.
Right,
and
and
it's a quiet shutter on that thing. It's
yeah,
super
it's really quiet, and
Yeah.
it's small, and it's, you know, not intrusive.
Yeah, I mean the work cameras are beasts, and they're meant to be big. They're meant to be sturdy. They're meant to go to the extremes. But when you want something like this with intimate, you like the stuff that's real subtle, that's real small, that you don't notice, and you can catch moments with that. I understand it. It's just that when I use other cameras, I feel like a fish out of water because it's not my regular. It's not my regular rig.
Yeah, you have to get used to the way you work with different cameras. You know, and I've kind of gotten used to that kind of. You flick a little switch where like you know you got the Nikon and everything on there. You know, it's a different. It's a different beast. It's a different tool for a different job.
Right.
Not that, you know, when, you know, I'm kind of a camera nerd too, but like, you know, you love these cameras, but at the end of the day, they're just tools to make pictures.
You
know,
got to get the job done.
It's a different version of a paintbrush or a pencil. You know,
exactly.
But I recently started a 365 project. I'm going to really try to stick to it for the whole year, especially since this app that I loved, which I found out about on this podcast, called 1 Second Every Day, where you film a video clip every day, then you edit the clip into a 1 second clip. At the end of the month, you make a 30-second recap of your month. And I was in love with the app, and the damn thing never works. It stopped working on my iPhone 4S. I have a 5S now, which still doesn't work. So I just had to bail on that, and I shifted over now to a 365 photo project, all done with the Leica, with the M9 or the M240. And it's fun sometimes, and sometimes it drives me crazy because at like 9 o'clock, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't take a picture today. And I've got to go look around the house or like around the corner, just trying to find any shot just to say I did a picture every day. But some days it's been a lot of fun. Maybe you'll be the one for today or something. But it's some days it's fun, some days it's not. But if anybody wants to see it, you go to Blip Photo. It's some Polaroid blog site, and you can upload a photo every day pretty easily. And I have it resting up there, so maybe somebody will check it out. I don't know. But what's next for everybody? Let's go to Ray first. What's next in the world of Ray photographically?
I mean, just continuing to work this project, this personal project, which is yoga, which is movement, which is dance, and just trying to make it more sexy. I think that was the thing that I got from Los Angeles, is that I wanted to try to, whatever that means, I have no idea. So I'm experimenting with that today and see where it takes me. And then using the day job, which is paparazzi work, to subsidize everything. And hopefully at the end of the day, getting some money from it. And if not, I mean, just I realize that the pictures I take for the personal project allow me to grow and allow me to keep working. So that's important.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah, I think these personal projects yeah.
Right. What's next for you, Brian?
And how long have you been doing the yoga photos?
The yoga photos for probably since March. March.
So almost
So you're close to a year. You're about
yeah.
10 months in.
Yeah.
Right. And Ray's done a lot of like evolution of it, because he started off doing it all on like white seamless.
Right.
And then he started going to like black seamless. And then now it seems to be that it's more of like experimenting with different ways to light it. And Ray seems to like shooting on the wall more than the seamless for some reason.
Yeah.
I think it just gives you like a little more space. That 9-foot paper seems really skinny sometimes.
Yeah, and then the post processing. I'm trying to avoid super long Photoshop sessions where I'm just like trying to clone stuff out. So working on the wall, I get a little bit more room, a little bit more latitude, and it doesn't have to be so precisely white or black.
Right.
So, if it's like the room. Right.
Yeah. So.
And then I think that the latest evolution for you in the last few months has been doing that location stuff. You like that Fulton Street train station. You like the the World Trade Center.
You posted that the other day.
I just
yesterday or today.
Yeah,
that was a great frame.
I just like just like with anything, everyone is trying to grow, trying to better their craft.
Right.
And I know that when I first met Brian, I would always ask him about stuff because I would always be like, inspired on how to get by. I didn't understand how to do it. I was just trying to get pictures. Now I'm trying to make pictures versus take pictures.
Right.
I think that's what we were all talking about back in the day.
Right.
Well, I think it was great that you started this project, simple, and then, I think that's where I get caught up on personal projects that you get caught up on the technical, or you get caught up like trying to make it too big too early,
right,
where you kind of just have to start moving, just start taking pictures, start simple, and then here you are a year later, and I'm sure that that you're going to be making some funds from.
And he's
the photos
known
are
for that
amazing.
now.
Yeah,
like people know him. I'm sure there's a lot of people, on the online world and in person who know him as like, oh, that's that guy that shoots yoga.
Right.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
that's very cool.
And I'm sure that there's you're going to meet the right person that's going to be like, oh, like we have a studio, whatever, I don't know, we have a fashion line that we need shot, like,
right. And then you're the guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What's next for you, Brian?
So I think I'm going to continue, these visitor portraits for now. Thinking that maybe I'll be the visitor, like visiting, shooting my friends and family and such in their places, and I also want to, in the future, kind of go back in, this accident that's happened to me and shoot portraits of everybody that's really helped out. I want to go back to Miami and photograph, some of the doctors and
that's cool.
Some of our friends that have helped out, and I want to go back, as far as there's a little backstory. Is I was when I was 16, I was in a car accident with one of my best friends, and he's still paralyzed. So, this is, the story of my life, and this happening to me, and the coincidences have in this guy was, one of the people that, influenced me to get into photography. Because when we were in school, like he started, he took the photography darkroom class, and my art class, I took some computer class, but I always thought, he was showing me all this stuff that was so cool, and he was like this inspiration that got me into photography, and then somehow this came full circle. So we'll see. I want to kind of do more portrait stuff. My idea from the portraits is also if I couldn't be going back and doing events and celebrities for Getty, if I wasn't able to walk, if I wasn't able to hold my camera, that I got to come up with something,
Right.
So.
But I tell you, man, for everything, we're living in the best time in history. Like if that did happen, that you were not able to walk, you're in the best time in history. This is when you're going to have a camera that you can blink and take a picture. That Google Glass, like this is when they're going to invent some prosthetic legs. It's amazing, like how the time we are in, we are just so lucky. Everything is available to us. It really is amazing.
Yeah, and I want to. Also, another project that I've been floating around is more of a documentary project about the everyday struggles of people with spinal cord injuries. You know, even people that recover like me have, you know, it's probably too long to like talk about here on the podcast, but you know, I'm walking around and everybody sees me on the street, think I'm a normal guy, but you know, like I can barely pick up my daughter, and I can hold my professional cameras for, you know, like 2 minutes before I'm too tired, and you know, all the other problems that you know people live with that you know, the general public doesn't really know about, you know, like how hard it is to get around, and you know, how hard it is to use the bathroom, and all
you're
that
gonna be
stuff.
the guy, like you're gonna be the guy that'll, like, you'll have that like that plate that'll let you give you special parking, and you're gonna get out the car and they're gonna look at you like, yeah, look at this guy, man, you know, you should be walking. They'll be cursing you out, but nobody knows your story.
Right, of course. And that, you know, my wife wants us to get the handicap parking sticker, and you know, I feel like I've recovered so fast that
you're like, no, but no, you should get it.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't want to be that guy that you know,
abuses.
Abusing the system.
And like I said, they're gonna look at you and think you're abusing it, no matter what.
Well, and it's a funny thing. Like people, you know, people see other people that are abusing the system,
and
they're like, oh, how could they do that? And then, you know, when, you know, a friend or family is, you're like, you know, they want you to take as much advantage of the system as possible.
Yeah,
you know?
I got too many personal stories about that I can't even tell here.
There's such a fine line of using the system and abusing the system.
Yeah. I shot this football player one time. We followed him around for like 2 days. It was this like documentary piece for 2 days.
Yeah.
And this guy was a current football player, and he pulled into the handicap spot and pulled out his little handicap thing, and he put it in the window, and you're like, you're a football player. Like, you can like run over human beings and crush them, and you're pulling out a handicapped sticker. It was unbelievable.
I mean, the qualification for, you know, those sorts of things is very wide.
Yeah, it's who you connect it to is 90% of it, I guess.
That, you know? Too. I don't think I have the, you know.
You don't have the props for that.
I feel so fortunate that, you know, I'm in the position I'm in, you know, even though I had a horrible accident, and, you know, I believe in karma. I think I believe in everything right now. Every possible thing I can believe in, but, you know, I feel like, you know, at this point I can't be, you know, there's other people that need a parking spot like that more than I do. Right. You know?
Yeah, that's cool.
Sometimes when I was in rehab, like, you know, I wanted to get out of there because I feel like I was just taking up a bed of somebody that needs it, you know? Right. Whatever. That's
cool.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, and last for me, next is really continuing the professional work, but continuing these model shoots every week, and trying to move them more into video is the thing. Like I said, I just bought this stabilizer. I'll talk about it in a podcast next time once I figure it out more, but it's something called a Nebula 4000. It's a small handheld stabilizer that seems really cool.
I think I saw that.
Yeah, it makes like the Steadicam Merlin look like something from like the Stone Age, because it's got like gyros. What do they call it? Gyroscope, and it's battery powered. It's so different from a Steadicam Merlin where you've got like this big arm and weights. Like it's so cool, and hopefully I can produce some really good stuff with that. And if I do, we'll talk about that at some point. Okay, so everybody's Instagram has been listed on the bottom of the video, because if you're listening to this, remember the podcast shows up on iTunes and YouTube. So whichever one you're listening to, you have that other option if you ever find it more convenient to check it out the other way. But as far as Instagrams, mine is John Ricard, JohnRicard. Ray?
It's R Tamara at R Tamara, RTAMARRA.
Good. And Brian, what's your Instagram?
It is Be Better, BBEDDER.
Be Better. That sounds like a slogan. That could be like your thing, like your slogan, like Be Better, and you spell it with the T's instead of the D. That could be like your thing. You get some shirts and market that, and that would be cool. And you only owe me like 40% for the name of the concept. Problem. So it's cool. All right. But anyway, man, Brian, so glad to see you walk into the studio. For real, man. Sincerely.
Thank you.
And thank you for stopping by.
Let me put these on real quick.
Here we go. Here's the Google Glass being put on. That should be cool. I played with it one time, man. It looked like a lot of fun. So. And you know, I reached out to Google to see if they would give like a discount on the purchase, which they didn't. okay, whatever. But they did kind of third-hand party say back to me that they would be interested in seeing what you created with it.
Right.
So
I don't have enough Instagram followers yet.
Oh, nah, you're gonna come. Don't worry. Ray's gonna teach us how to all get followers soon. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you all again.
Thank you.
Bye bye.